let's begin up with the roundtable discussion, which is the last session of day 1 for DIGITALCONFEX. So topic is AI-powered growth, leveraging artificial intelligence for enhanced brand engagement. We have our first speaker joining in Sutharsan Chiranjeevi, Partha Saarathy. He is a head of AI and product architecture from GEMS Education. Can we have a big round of applause and have him on the stage, please? Thank you. Can we have a big round of applause? There's no energy in the claps. All right, our second speaker is Sunil Modha. He's a senior client partner, MENA, from Smartly. Can we have a big round of applause for Sunil? Our third speaker, Najd, Ghader. He's a private sector partnerships individual giving officer, UNHCR. So can we have a big round of applause for him and have him on the stage, please? And the moderator, who was found missing like few seconds before. So Mayank Agarwal, Group Head, Performance Marketing from Lavida Clinic. Can we have a big round of applause for Mayank? So over to you, Mayank. Thank you.
Thank you. A very good evening to each and every one of you. I think all the speakers, glad to meet you all. I think I came late because I was hanging out with Mr. Hanif sir. I think I would like to start this session that AI. I think it's a glorious word for now, AI. I think the last session which Akshay moderated, I think that gave us a good benchmark to start this session, that how the future of marketing is having a word of AI driven now. And I think that girl, beautiful girl, asked one question, very interesting question. Apart from AI, what is the next future of marketing? Which answered as content marketing, brand engagement, right? So here's my first question to every one of you. Like, how are you combining AI and brand engagement for your specific industry?
Good evening, everyone. As a head of AI for an education institution called GEMS Education, so two things really are very sensitive. One is the data for the students and also about the parents. So when we talk about AI, one of the first things that come to mind is how are you going to be very responsible and ethical in using the data, right? So from a personalization perspective or a brand engagement perspective, this is very crucial because one slip here, a slight misjudgment there could actually have a very consequential implications on the organization. So what we do is strictly from a data governance perspective, we have very strict policies and procedures in place. And we follow a lot of frameworks that are built internally. From a brand engagement perspective, how it translates is, take for example, the mobile apps that parents are using, right? So we make sure that there's a lot of sentiment analysis done and the right type of information being passed on to the parents at the right time. Right? That's more important than just giving an update for the sake of giving, right? So from a personalization and a brand engagement perspective, I think what is the data that you collect? How do you store it? How do you mine it to get meaningful outcomes? And how do you effectively translate into an engagement from your client perspective? That's the most important aspect.
Thank you, Mayank. I'm going to look at it from a different lens because I'm the only tech partner sitting on this panel. And no, this is not a sales pitch in any means. Always gets put on the spot, eh? Just to set the scene a little bit, I spent my last 6 to 7 years where we launched a clean room. So for those who don't know what a clean room is, it's a data collaboration tool without sharing physical data assets. So let's take your example, right? As a brand, as a school, institution, you're sitting on a lot of PII data that you're registering from parents. It's sensitive information, there's health records, etc. That data cannot be leaking anywhere in the ecosystem, right? But my 6 years when I was at this clean room, where the clean room stops is the execution. So if you take it in a brand's world, you've done your data match, you now want to action against that, right? You want to target the right user in the right environment, in the right content, whether it's emails, whether it's social channels, wherever these consumers are. The next element to that is how do we then deliver the right visual to them? The visuals are the creatives that our consumers will see this day and age, right? They both play hand in hand. Technology is powerful here now because you've got one end of the technology allowing you to understand your consumers much better, and as humans, we're dynamic. And then we've got the other end where technologies are playing a role of serving the right creatives to our individuals in the right environments. Now, AI plays a good role here, but there still requires human elements, right? The technology is helping us to expedite manual processes that our industry has suffered for years. Optimization metrics, understanding is our creatives actually performing? When does it run out of, when does it experience fatigue? How do we translate languages across multiple markets? These tools become more complementary to our human efforts. And then play them hand in hand, we can enhance brand engagement by ensuring that the right consumer is seeing the right message at the right time. And it's actually a bit more intimate, right? It should resonate with that human that we're trying to speak to. I'll give it to you, Najd, from a brand perspective.
Yeah. So thank you both. I think they said everything, but from my brand perspective, which is, I think I'm the only humanitarian field here. I work with the United Nations for Refugees, so basically our usage of data is a bit different than other industries. We have several kinds of data. We have the refugees data. We register refugees in every country, so this is a very critical and very sensitive data. So of course, we use AI and CRM's AIs to just keep everything safe. We have the donors data as well, because we do digital fundraising, which is my field specifically. Also, we have a lot of data and a huge database. And we have basically what we do in campaign, which what you just mentioned, and how we serve the right message at the right time to a lot of different segments. So for every business, there are different segments, right? So we use AI to segmentation, like for a different segment, every different segment has a different KPI, different matrix. So AI could help us a lot with that, and it helps us in creating the right communication to each segment. That's with our existing donors, the existing database. There's another level for that, which is basically acquiring new donors, and as you said, creating the match of our donors that could possibly become our future donor, or we can acquire them, and how we can use AI to maximize our donations without spending that much. Because at the end of the day, even if we are a United Nations entity, people think that United Nations has a lot of money. It doesn't. But so basically, we fund ourselves, right? So we need to spend as little as we can and get as much as we can. So that's where AI feeds in as well. So, and for the engagement, one last point, sorry, because this is mainly about engagement. The most important point for me is, let's say, deleting hate speech in Europe, because people are talking to you, and refugees is a very sensitive topic, and you need to eliminate any hate speech on any platform when it exists, because you don't want people to start hating each other, right? So we use AI tools to detect and remove any hate speech in our comments or even on articles in some websites or magazines, so we can reach out to and deal with that. And this is a very crucial point as well.
I think three pointers which came across out of this conversation was, I think, personalization, second is privacy, and third is segmentation, right? So I would like to know, or I think the audience would like to know, I think more into privacy, right? In today's world, I think when it comes to AI, how privacy is taking into picture that for every brand or customers, how would I know that my data or my profile is safe? When AI come into picture, it's a dangerous terminology. So how every brand, your respective brand, are taking this privacy concern into matter when AI comes into picture?
Yeah, so from an education perspective, what we do is, of course, one thing that is very a requirement right now is GDPR compliance from a data perspective. So all the data that resides within the systems are GDPR compliant. And most of the applications that are used across all of the schools in the network as well as in the corporate is basically homegrown, which means that we have control over where the data is, how it is tagged, how it is used, and so on and so forth. And another most important aspect is we emphasize on two main aspects. One is the explainability. So when I was talking about these platforms, right? So we have built our own AI models in the system for about 3.5 years now. So we have complete control, and we're not reliant on external models or language models to be very specific to create or compute the actions. So what we do is one of the key aspects is explainability of the model. Specifically in education, when you are trying to provide operational efficiency or when you're trying to provide support for teachers, the most important aspect is the teachers need to get the comfort that the output that's coming out of the model is actually understandable, right? So what we do is we've created our own explainable framework, which actually not only tells you or tells a common man as to how the model is deriving at a particular output, but rather also goes to a point where it says that most of the information that is fed into these models, mainly the PII, is actually masked and anonymity is maintained. Even though the teacher has to know about, or our educator needs to know about every single student or a learner, there are other ways in which you can actually provide the correct information rather than exposing the PII. Because like you mentioned, hatred and hate speech has to be resolved. There's also specific in education where you don't want diversity, race, the students' background to come into picture when the teacher or an educator is standing in front of a class of, let's say, 25 students. So this is one of the aspects in which we actually try to maintain the unanimity, uniformity, at the same time try to have privacy at as much control as possible.
Yeah, I mean, from a platform perspective, we are fortunate. We're not touching anyone's addressable data. My previous company we did. I mean, we didn't touch it again, but it's the way it was managed. But in Smartly, slightly different. We kind of give the onus back to the brands, right? You're in full control. If you've got pre-segmentation work and you want to bring that into Smartly, we're not taking it at an addressable level, we're taking it at a user ID level. And what I mean by user ID, again, is platform ID. So anything you built within Google, in Meta, in Snap, TikTok, etc. Because all we're saying there is, you've done the pre-homework. You know, you've gone out into the market, you've collected your consumer data, you've got the right consent to utilize it. Again, there's regional nuances. You know, some countries say you've got consent, but is it legitimate interest or is it full consent? So again, that all plays a role here. Now, once you've got that segmentation available, we're then using the platform to then, you know, for both of your brands, to saying, right, I know who these users are now. You know, there's pre-parents who are just getting their kids into FS1, for example. Their message should be completely different to those entering year 1 or year 3 or year 7, right? Say from your perspective, you've got the pre-donors. You want to find more. So you've done your lookalike. You've used AI to build those lookalike segmentations. Now you want to serve them a different creative because you don't want to annoy your pre-donors. They're already donating. What we're doing now, so, you know, like tools like Smartly's or creative optimization softwares, is the ability to use the AI technology to mimic some of these creative assets. And then use it to serve across multiple languages. So then how do we use AI to translate across different languages? Now there's caveats here, right? And I think this has been the common theme. AI is a fantastic tool if it's leveraged in the right way. Excuse my language. If you input it with shit, the output's going to be shit. Simple as, right? So with AI, we need to make sure prompts, translations, languages, tone is within your brand guidelines. And that's the most important bit, to enhance brand engagement. And we see that quite a lot. I'll give you a prime example. A couple of weeks ago, we're working with a large carrier, and they've just started to use generative AI translation services. But instantly, the feedback was, it doesn't work. You've only switched it on for a week. It doesn't understand your language, right? We as humans, how many of us have said, hey, we want our KPIs, I want to be healthy, I want to be fit, I want to have a good structure, I want to be motivated. My prompts and inputs are my diet, how many times I go to the gym, how many times I exercise, my running, my walking. The moment I stop, my body's going to go back to its normal way. AI is exactly the same. It needs constant fueling, and it needs to understand your brands.
True. It's constant learning, which I think the machine, I think it's basically a machine. Yep. The input which you give to the machine, the output will be accordingly like this, right? I think the second thing is into personalization. I think we have covered the privacy point of view. Now coming to the personalization point of view, right? The user journey. We know that there are different trigger points when it comes to user journey. And now, how AI is helping into personalization, right? I think specifically for your specific brand, how are you taking care that personalization happens with the help of AI, and at the end, you're getting the end result as well?
So in our brand, what we do is we use AI to, in a way that minimize, let's say intensive messaging. Okay, so the personalization that we need is just send the proper message in the proper time and reduce the frequency of contacting your donors, because at the end of the day, don't want to be disturbing your donors to give you no. That's one of I'm focusing on donors here because this is the most crucial part for me. So what we do is we do something that's called lead scoring. Okay. And in lead scoring, what AI help us with, it analyzes the behavior. And this is a very crucial part of role of AI. It understands your donors in each segment, and it gives you a proper segmentation, like the level of giving that this donor gives us, what kind of channels that he prefers to give on, how does he prefer to be communicated with, WhatsApp, email, whatever. And is it more probable that this donor will give, or like, so we basically create 4 groups with different levels, like Group A, which is the most, the donors that would most that highly is gonna give you, and this is based on the level of giving and the potential behavior that we analyzed. Group B, it has less potential of giving, but higher level of giving. So basically, if he gives you, he's gonna give you $1,000 as a donation. So we create different communication for each one of these, and we create basically which channel we need to go with. And we start the campaign based on the data that is with us. When we started using this, we started it with the biggest campaign we have every year, which is basically Ramadan, let's say. And it reduced our cost because we're not spending as much money on social and digital and other channels to reach these donors. And it reduced our cost and got us a 10% increase of income, but that 10% is massive with the reduced cost, right? So, and that's one of them. And this is the personalization that you need to do. It always has to have a human factor, because at the end of the day, you can't ask the AI to create also the communication for you, although you can, but your team knows their donors. They've been with them on calls, on emails before. So what we do is we get all of the segmentation done, all the requirements done by AI, and we generate the communication, and then we let the human factor play the last role with that.
I have one question for you, Sutharsan. Like, for example, personalization. In terms of engaging with the audience and also internally engaging with the students and the teachers, how you are leveraging personalization with the help of AI?
Yeah, so let's go by persona-wise. So let's look at students as stakeholders, right? So what we do is, for students, we've actually created a platform where the assessments and quizzes can be generated automatically on the fly, and this is definitely based on the adaptiveness of the student. For instance, a teacher has the ability to say, okay, today I've taught photosynthesis for the class, and class of 20, so I want 5 medium questions, 5 easy questions, and 10 hard questions. But this is the level of personalization that's available currently in the market with the platforms that's available. Where we've gone one step further is because the learning management system is also in-house, we also have the history of the student, right? So, so when you look at curriculum, how it's built, it's more of a spiral. So what you learn in grade 6 the extension of it is what you learn in grade 7 as well. Deeper, better, and advanced topics. So we understand the journey of how the student has progressed. In this case, if it's photosynthesis, we already know how the student has been interacting with respect to science, with respect to biology and all of that. And then the platform tweaks within the medium questions or the hard questions, specific answers. For instance, I have answered 2 of the medium questions incorrectly. So it understands which specific aspect of the standard or an objective is gone wrong. So it starts prompting questions based on that aspect. So what we do is, there are a lot of taxonomies that's usually built for education. So follow a specific type to understand the exact place in which the student's lacking. That type of a personalization given for students. Now moving on to teachers, right? So one of the key aspects of a teacher, the availability and the need for teachers to be in class, is to understand who are the students at risk. It's not enough if you concentrate on the top cream students. It's very important to understand who the bottom feeders are, the students who needs an uplift. So start of every year, we run a predictive model and flag off the students who are at risk, provide it back to the students, and provide it back to the teachers. And only teachers have access to this, right? So what happens is teachers understand where the weakness of every student is, the strengths, specific areas which student needs to be focused on, and so on and so forth. From a parent perspective, like I mentioned, one of the most important stakeholder, we don't want parents to be helicopter parents where they need to borrow the credentials of students to understand what's happening, what are the assessments and all of that. And it's just not about education. There's a lot to do with the entire academic journey. How is the student's behavior inside and outside the classroom? How is the student's status emotionally, physically? And what are the activities that the student's performing? There are so many things that the parent needs to be aware of, just not the grades and the marks that the student's getting. So depending on what is being done on a particular day, the type of message gets delivered to the parent. For instance, if there's a day with a lot of activities and less concentration on project work or education, things related to what has happened in those activities, for instance, swimming. So there's a 2-hour swimming session that happened, and equally on the same day, there was also a minor test that happened. For a parent who's actually enrolled his child in swimming, that's also equally important for him to learn. So he or she as a parent needs to, will be delivered messages correspondingly. And depending on the interaction, so you understand the click rate in which the application is being responded with. You also understand the engagement of the parent in the application for specific push notifications. So depending on that, we also build and start pushing specific messages to the parent. So ultimately, rather than waiting for the end of the year and look at a piece of paper to understand when the student is or their child is, they get to know it on a daily basis. So for every single stakeholder, we've tried doing it in a different way.
It's fitting that a platform does sit in between 2 brands, because everything you've just mentioned, what we do at Smartly, small note, not sales pitch again, but essentially to what you said, you're collecting multiple data points from multiple platforms, right? Now, the old way of working again, guys, is you're going to each independent platform, trying to obtain that data, then consolidating your own environments. Where we kind of help with agility is bringing all of that into one unified platform, then using the capabilities of AI to learn at creative asset level of how is your campaign measuring up against the KPIs that you've inputted, not us, not that your platform's inputted, and is it actually stacking up to those brand metrics, right? And then the beauty about the AI prompts again is this what we call triggers in Smartly's world is if creative A is underperforming versus creative B, you get a prompt. And you don't have to wait till the 15th of every month, which we used to do back in the days, and go through lengthy Excel reports and understand where the inefficiency is happening, how do we optimize, what audiences do we use. The system's telling you that, right? And now if you give the system more control and you're letting AI to take it up another notch, it's allowing you to saying, well, it underperformed on Google, let's push more into Meta. And it's not just doing that to the creatives, it's doing that to the budgets. So all of a sudden, you're not having to have difficult conversations with your marketing directors or your CFOs and saying, what happened to all that budget? Why have we not spent it? Why has it been spent incorrectly, right? Second to that is creative fatigue. It happens quite a lot without even us realizing. How many times have we been exposed to creatives or visuals by brands where it's like, I'm pretty sure I saw that last year for the exact same sales period, right? But people change, our behaviors change, our commitments change. We're such dynamic individuals. Why are we being served the same visuals 2 years ago or 1 year ago? So again, what systems are able to do in using AI is understanding this creative is actually experiencing fatigue. Rotate it, serve a different message. Let it resonate well with your consumers, and you can see the uplift in performance.
I think the decision making of the top level management has become more quicker with the help of AI. I think that is one thing which I'm getting out of this question. One last question. I think generative AI would like to put some lights upon how generative AI is helping the current AI for the organizations.
So for generative AI, it's basically for us, because we have a lot of policies that limits us in using generative AI to the full potential, we need to be true to the story that we're moving. It's a story of a refugee, it's a life of a refugee to our audience. So we only use it to be very honest, just we use it to adapt every story we have to different platforms. Usually it used to take us like, let's say, 4 to 5 days with all the designers working on them to do the adaptations. Now it takes you 40 minutes. And then they just fine tune it. So this is one. And then you have, of course, the emails. The generative AI can write you an email like in 2 minutes. It used to take us a whole day. Although it's gonna need fine tuning, it's always needs fine tuning by a human, right? But generative AI is the best tool we have to reduce, I'm not gonna say resources. At the end of the day, the human will be there. It will always be there. So all your staff will remain as a staff, but it reduces the load of work on them, and it generates a better version of your content to get maximum income.
Yes.
From a platform perspective of how we provide it to advertisers today and agency groups is more so just to expedite manual processes, right? Generative AI in our world is text translation, enabling to change copy on the fly, especially in the GCC, or if you look at other India as a region or APAC, you have multiple languages within one region. Tones change, dialect changes. So to be able to provide the right prompts and translate one English copy into 18 different languages, that's efficiency to marketeers and agencies, right? Because then they're able to focus. And caveat, there's still a human element. There still needs to be a copy or a writer to sense check that. Is this the right dialect? Is this the right tone before we serve it and deliver it? And then we've got other operations like scene generation. Again, if a creative is experiencing fatigue or they just want to chop and change an image of a background, immediately do that, still staying within brand frameworks. And that's how we're seeing it and how we're seeing the adoption from brands and agencies today.
So from an education perspective, I think Gen AI has been a double-edged sword. The reason why I'm saying that is, of course, from an administrative educator perspective, it's a boon because there are about 127 nationalities the students belong to in the entire network of schools that we operate. So a lot of parents prefer to have the communication to them in their preferred language. So writing about 127 copies every single time is absolutely not possible. So what happens is, depending on the preference from the parents, the initial copy that school PRE creates is translated on the fly, and this is being sent as an email or as a circular, a newsletter to all of the parents. Again, is a human involved? Absolutely yes, at least for the initial copy. And because it needs to be in a specific dialect, what we've also done is we've created an abstraction layer on top of these LLMs. So what it does is the abstraction layer is clear with rules of how do you address a parent who's having his or her child in grade 12 in a British curriculum school to a parent who is from a kindergarten child in an IB curriculum or an Indian curriculum or Arabic curriculum for that aspect. So the ask and the need and the expectation is completely different. So the abstraction layer, which took about 2 years for us in the making, does that work for us. So it's completely made sure that every single dialect, it follows the corresponding words. And the one thing is, unlike a commercial copy, right? These copies need to actually give you the exact information in the dialect. So a word that's used in a colloquial way could not be used from an education institution, right? So all of those guardrails are already in place, but again, without a human intervention, all of this would definitely fail, because it also needs a continuous upskill of the model, and you also need to reassess the training data that's always fed in. So from a student perspective though, from their aspect, Gen AI is a boon. As an educator, it's a bane, because you can't really stop students from exploring, or rather exploiting this, right? But at the same time, is it fair for the education institution to still believe in rote learning? You look at something and then you memorize and then you come and write the same thing. Doesn't make sense. So the entire model of teaching and learning, the entire delivery is now completely forced to be relooked at. Do you really need a 4-year college graduation to start working? Possibly not. At the same time, do you need 20, 25 students to be sitting in a sequence in a classroom and listening for the lecture for 8 hours? The data that a teacher can provide, internet can provide 100 times better. So rather than completely restricting the students or stopping, what we're trying to do is to educate them how well this can be used. At the same time, start questioning the education institutes on whether this is the right mode of education that's being delivered for the 21st century.
I think Ayush told me to keep it a bit shorter because we are running short of time. So I think as I'm taking forward the future of marketing, what will be the future of marketing, which is AI, more done by personalization, data safety and segmentation. I think that is what I would summarize the whole session into. If we are open for questions, if you have any.
Yeah, no, thanks for input. Really helpful to understand how AI can use in different sectors. Coming to Mr. Sutharsan, right? I mean, you mentioned about the privacy part and explainability part, right? And you also touched about kind of, I mean, I was relating to your point about the literacy part of it, how students can be more educated about how to use AI responsibly, right? So, I mean, it's not a question, but I think it's my viewpoint. Maybe I'll take your viewpoint as well on that. That in the education sector, at least we as a parent believe that, I mean, there has to be a curriculum on digital and AI literacy, which UK schools have started following. I come from London. I see a couple of schools have started curriculum. In my son's school, they have started digital literacy curriculum, very new actually, right? So rather than restricting students to use those apps which can plagiarize the content and all, I think it's better to help them understand how ethically they can use it, and so that they become better citizens later on, because they have to use these technologies in corporate world. That helps, right? So that's one thing, whether Dubai is doing that or not. Maybe I'll ask that question. Yeah. There's another, aspect about explainability and privacy you mentioned. So privacy, as I think, is that because of GDPR in 2018 in EU, after that, most of the countries know that privacy is an issue, and they have implemented it. So because of the evolution of AI, it has become more and more important now, and we have started surfacing again the privacy issues and all. But I think there are lots of technologies which can help along with AI implementation. So there is a company known as OneTrust. I think you must have heard of it. So you have technology which can handle the privacy part, right? The second is explainability, I think, which is new. It's a new beast to handle. How we can explain, because the data is everywhere. You're scraping the whole world and get data, right? So your model should be explainable. So for that also, technology can help us as long as we are aware. And I know human in loop and human oversight is important, but I think the use of technology, because we are dealing with a technology which is very fast evolving, so we need to have those explainability related technology also. So I can see banking, finance and healthcare use the frameworks like LIME and SHAP, I don't know. So LIME stands for local, interpretable, model agnostic explanations, and SHAP stands for shapely adaptive explanation. So these are the frameworks which can help understand why the particular decision has been made by model and all. So, I mean, my question basically to both, for both the questions here is that whether Dubai as a region is using these technologies, or we are still figuring out, how to do that?
Great question, by the way. Let me start by giving you a perspective about how technology is looked at in terms of education as an industry, right? Traditionally, education has been a laggard in terms of adopting technologies. You hardly see the education sector embracing technology as fast as any other sector. For instance, retail, manufacturing. So there are industries where it is embraced quickly, but traditionally education has been a laggard. And that is changing quite rapidly ever since the post-COVID era started. Now, when we talk about the AI and trainings and a lot more courses for students, I think the ruler of Dubai and the greater education ministries, KHTA in specific, which is for Dubai, ADEC for Abu Dhabi, SPIA for Sharjah. So they have started giving emphasis on having teachers trained first on the capabilities and the technology, how it works. Does not necessarily mean that every teacher needs to then become a data scientist and start coding, but more than basic level of information is absolutely required. And this year, it has become mandated that in every school, 100% of all of the teachers have the capability to understand AI, what it is, how do their plans for how to teach AI. So most certainly in comparison to other regions, other countries, I think UAE and Abu Dhabi, Dubai and Sharjah has been excellent in understanding the need, current need, and working towards it already. And the ruler of Dubai has also provided a mandate that all of these teacher training has to be completed before end of the year. So that's an amazing news to be done. Second thing about the explainability, I think you are on the point. Both, even though there are frameworks, international frameworks that's already available, where I believe it lacks is none of these frameworks have been tailored to education as a domain, right? And where it also gives a back step is you can't really expect every education institution to start building their own products. Most of them rely on commercial off-the-shelf products. Licensing mode is where every school is working towards. In that case, explainability is slightly from the perspective of the platform developer rather than the schools. But in our case, like I mentioned, what we've done is almost all of the platform has been built in-house. The AI models, the AI platform has been built in-house, which is patented in US last year. So what we were able to do, fortunately, was to bring in all of these aspects into the platform itself. So explainability for us is slightly different from a platform provider and a consumer, but 100%. I think 4 key aspects in education are: 1 is explainability, 2 is how ethically you can use the data that's available, 3 is responsible and fair usage, and number 4 is the governance of these systems, because more and more signups come in from a school perspective on multiple AI platforms. How do you really govern that is a question that needs to be answered. I think fortunately from GEMS Education's perspective, we've been working on these frameworks and I've actually filed for a research patent, and for all of these, it's pending for patenting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think the 4 pointers which you mentioned will go for all the industries, not only for the education industry, but the
All right, do we have one question? Okay.
Hello, guys. Thank you for this. My name is Mooks from Malaysia. So in terms of like innovation and trends when it comes to AI, I deal with a lot of brands who are, jumping on board, and basically they want to implement their own kind of processes, guidelines, and all that internally, right? What are some, based on your experiences, what are some of the, instead of the mainstream ones that you see people using, what are some of the other AI tools that you guys see fit or quite effective for a lot of brands to use as well? Is there any other AI tools that's available and you guys are adopting it on your own as well?
I'll give a non-biased smartly opinion. It's subjective to the advertiser, right? I think the number one questions we all have to ask, even the brand themselves, is the what's and the why's. Like, what are we trying to achieve? And why are we trying to achieve it, right? If I'm a brand and my biggest pain point is agility, which, to be honest, is most brands these days, right? In most sectors, they want to get things off the shelf onto the, in front of the consumers as soon as possible. They don't want to miss a window. Then you need to use tools that has AI capabilities to help expedite certain processes that you've been experiencing. And that's such as, getting creative assets in a scalable environment. So you can distribute it across multiple platforms. My challenge is I work across multiple markets globally, and I have to translate a number of copies across different languages and, again, different dialects, to your point, right? Then I need text translation services. My challenge is my visuals just don't resonate with my consumers. Then you need scene generation services, right? Where AI tools are able to analyze that creative asset and understand why it's underperforming for you to make that human decision and work with humans to change the visuals, right? So it's fundamentally down to the individual brands. And this is where, the previous panels are coming in, where agencies and brands themselves and technology partners now are becoming more consultative. It's not just a hard technology sale. It's actually understanding, is this product even fit for purpose for your business? And they're the questions we should be asking.
I think it's primarily with respect to the objective, as rightly mentioned. For example, what is your pain point? Are you looking for data management? There would be a separate tool for data management. Are you looking for creative? Then for creative, there will be a different AI tool. If you're looking for community management, there will be a different AI tool. So as per your objective and pain point, there is a different tool which you can focus on.
Right. I just wanted to add one thing. This is not working. I just wanted to add one point that AI is not for everyone. Because, and I've seen this very recently. Whenever I sit with someone, and the first thing he mentions, we're bringing AI to our business. If you ask him what are you bringing AI for, he doesn't know. But he wants to be up to date, so he's bringing AI. So AI is not for everyone. So one of the examples I can give you out of our own industry, they try to use AI as a generative tool to create the videos to reduce time of creating content, right? You cannot control what AI, at the end of the day, I need to tell a human story. AI is not a human. It doesn't have feelings. It has to be emotional. He's not going to create something emotional for you. Okay, you can do it with prompts. It's at the end of the day, there's no eye contact. If you do the analysis, like the perfectly done creative videos to get donations is the videos that has eye contact from a refugee, probably a kid or an elder. And you get to know these because you've done this. I've been doing this for 8 years. So if you get an AI, I give him all the prompts. When he creates the video, or it doesn't move me at all, right? So you need to know what you need, what your audience needs, and then decide if AI can benefit that, will do the trick for this or not. So, as my colleague just said, you just need to assess your needs, your challenges, and everything. And AI is not for everyone, so just take it easy on it.
Just one last thing to add up. So from our development perspective, the development team, there are quite a few specific tools that we use answering specific to your point. So we've been using UiZard to cut down the front-end design and development to literally 10% of the time that it used to take. From a development perspective, we also combine Claude along with v0.dev. So what this does is it gives you the entire front-end code in 3 different languages. Also builds you services, microservices, helps you with, if you are using standard platforms to integrate, for instance, ERP could be your Microsoft Dynamics, your CRM could be a Salesforce. These platforms have standardized JSON responses, right? So you also can create APIs, specifically get or put APIs within about a fraction of seconds. And specifically for creating those websites that are one-time use, we also use Claude again. And these in tandem, specific to the problem that we're trying to solve. I think this has increased the efficiency to an unimaginable level. So a team of 4 developers, 1 front end, 1 back end, 1 mobile app developer, or 1 DB, it's actually reduced to 1 person who understands what the business problem is to solve through technology. And what used to take a sprint of 2 weeks takes about a day to be completed.
All right. Okay. Do we have something? All right. 1 second.
Thank you. Thank you, guys, for everything. I'm Omar, Creative Solutions Manager at IIA Saudi Arabia. My question is to Mr. Sunil, since he's pitching Smartly services to us. Now it's time to give us one of the secrets. Since AI is invading us so fast, and it's quick, like it's quite faster than we're expecting. So how can we maintain authentic connections with the audience while expanding or scaling our marketing efforts?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something, you know, we talk about on a day-to-day basis. Authenticity and consistency and ensuring that your branding resonates with your end consumer is key to all of this, right? Now, it goes back to my previous point. Technology will help certain elements of that process, right? Your process of, I've got this vision, I've got the concept, I want to build this into a template, but I want to distribute it across multiple platforms, whether it's offline, out of home, or online, right? That's where technology and AI and all of these elements speed up the process. But the initiation of what was the concept in the first place, that is still a human element, right? You need to work with creative specialists. You need to work with humans where this is going to resonate. To your point, eye contact, it's emotional. How will my consumers engage with this? Once that idea is put into a template, you're then using technology to speed up of how you get it to the relevant platforms. How do you get it to that consumer? You know, you might be running a flash sale over the weekend. Your turnaround time is briefing on Monday, get live on Friday. Technology is where this can be expedited, right? And to your point, how do we make sure there's brand consistency? These are where your guardrails come in. So, you know, implementing and onboarding brand frameworks, copy, text, translation, creative assets, pre-approved, right? If all of these are already available to you as a marketeer and you can upload them into a system, the rest is just scaling up, right? And you've also got to remember that Smartly, but there's other companies like ours out there, right? Let me be generic
Again, Smartly.
But let's go back into a world where there are solutions. They're also connected to these end platforms. Solutions need to also make sure they're adhering to the end platform's privacy guidelines, right? I'll take it out of context here just to give a generic example. Certain tobacco brands can't market in certain regions and certain platforms. So as a result, those creatives won't even make it to the end platform. It will stop at wherever that DCO is, right? It's those little elements you have to be mindful of. So it's also ensuring, is the technology in line with the privacy guidance? Are they in line with the regulations of local markets? Are they respecting of how clients are uploading pre-approved assets? And again, we're not the end users, we're just the technology. There are still elements where your organizations might be hands on keyboard, agencies might be hands on keyboards. We're seeing creative agency also now thinking outside the box of, it takes us weeks, not months, to produce things. Why are we not using technology? So these are the type of elements now that people are having discussions about. I hope that helps address the question.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I have a question, and this is for maybe to the students or people that are learning or trying to understand AI. We have meta AI, which is completely different from AI. So how do you kind of break that down to somebody who doesn't know, who is convinced that meta AI is the AI?
Should a technology partner answer that one? Or does the brands answer that? From a technology, look, generally technology itself requires education. That's the biggest fundamental challenges we face in any sector, right? There's always new technology coming up, and do we have the fundamental knowledge of understanding what's the purpose for this? So of course the platforms, regardless of who they are going to create their own spin-off version of a tool that's already available, right? There's a saying, I need to keep up with the market.
Right.
That's what this is, right? So yes, Meta AI is there, but it's probably enough capabilities for brands, whoever wants to utilize Meta overall, to fit for purpose within that environment. But then you also need to complement by other AI tools, right? You're going to get standalone AI tools that will be unique to what you're trying to achieve. Google have an AI tool, Microsoft have an AI tool, Snap's building an AI tool. So all the platforms are building AI tools. I'll give you another prime example going out of AI. 7 years ago when we launched a clean room, I was laughed out of meeting rooms, of this will never stand. Privacy, you're asking people to upload addressable data into a cloud service, no chance. 2.5 years later, Amazon had a clean room, Snowflake have a clean room, DMPs have a clean room. So you can see there's a trend. It's because we need to keep up with the market. If I'm not supporting my client with a one-stop shop sort of solution, they're going to go elsewhere. Yeah. And that's as simple.
Just to take from an education institution's perspective on the question that you asked, right? When you look at somebody who is interested and willing to learn, there are only two things that the student is expected to be focusing on. One is communication, second is math and basic questioning, right? When you talk about all of these AI, fundamentally these are statistics which is driving all of this. You can talk about neural networks, you can talk about deep learning, you can talk about machine learning. At the end of the day, all of this narrows down to a place where what is the problem that you're solving and how are you going to solve? And fundamentally, 99% of 100, it comes down to traditional mathematics and statistics, which has been in place for about 300 years, 400 years, right? So the take would be to not learn the tool first, but to understand how it is being built. So as an example, if you really want to get good at knowing AI, what in schools that we suggest is concentrate on the core, which is your statistics, your maths, the tools. So basically every single AI model is a spin-off or a use case of a particular statistical model, right? So if you start learning the basics of that, then you will be able to appreciate what is the difference between each one of these spin-offs that every individual company is building. For example, GPT became mainstream about 2.5 years back, but the actual BERT model that is the birth from transformers as a type of AI model has been in existence for over 10 years. It's just that somebody thought that this could be used in this particular use case, and hence the entire the knockoff happened, right? So from an education perspective, I would still believe that if we concentrate on the core aspects of it, it would really help.
So thanks for the wonderful session. So can we have a group photograph quick? Come on guys, show some energy. Please give us a big, huge round of
wonderful
applause.
energy and never-ending question in the last session. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. All right, it was the last session. So one word for this particular session from each one of you. One word, very short word.
Quite informative.
Media lunches will be back on Thursdays with AI coming into place.
I hope that people really know the value of AI and know that AI will never replace humans. This is none of that will happen.
Don't be scared of AI.
Thank you so much, and thanks Mayank for moderating a wonderful session. So
I would like to ask Mitali to present certificate of participation to Najd, Ghader. Come on guys, huge round of applause for Najd. So next we have Sunil, Modha. Come on, guys, huge round of applause for Sunil. So next is Sutharsan. Come on, guys, huge round of applause for Sutharsan. And at last, we have wonderful moderator for the session, Mayank Agarwal. Come on, guys, huge round of applause for Mayank.